Welcome to SRG Insights, where we answer your questions about sales, sales training, and sales management. And today's question is,
Florin from Loopio asks, how many no's are you willing to get from different people within an account before you give up on the account? I know this really depends on who the no is coming from, for an example, ultimate decision maker, but at what point are you doing more damage than potential good?
well, that's really a great question, and one that I think we've all run into. How persistent should you be? Can you be too persistent? And how many no's should you accept before you move on to the next opportunity? I think we've all heard that, and I think the research suggests most people may say no 4 times to get to that yes, or the averages, or there are a lot of training programs that say you have to hear a no 3 times before you move on. I think the question is really, why are we getting that no? In other words, is it that we're trying to meet with them and it's bad timing? Maybe we're trying to meet with the wrong person and it's really not that useful. Or maybe we're offering the wrong solution and it's really just not a good fit. So I think, the idea of whether or not we're being too persistent really boils down to, where is the no coming from? And can we really understand what's behind it? Maybe we're just catching them on a bad day or bad timing. And we should ask the question, is there a better time to follow up? Is there somebody else in the organization that would be more appropriate to meet with? Or is there something else that you have on your agenda that's a priority for you that we might be able to assist with? I think another question to really consider is, how strategic is this account to obtaining your objectives for the quarter or for the year? In other words, if you have a long list and unlimited accounts to go after, you may actually accept that no, is this isn't the right timing, I'll follow up again, but you move on to the next in the list. But if your target account list is only 20 strategic accounts, well then we better be pretty careful, focused, and strategic about how we approach those. And we may get a no from one place, but we're asking those questions that might lead us elsewhere in the organization, might help us map the account. Maybe we can develop a coach along the way that can be useful for us. So we're going to accept that no, but we're going to learn from it and we're going to use that in other ways. I think it's really important for us to really understand what's going on in that organization before we make the call, do our pre-call planning and our research and find out what the business issues are, and come into those questions with some sort of compelling reason for them to meet with us. I think oftentimes we get a no because we catch them off guard. It's not their, job to take your meeting or to call you back. And so, why should they meet with you? You better give them a pretty important reason that's going to look like saving them money, improving their productivity, selling more of their product, improving their relationships with their customers, some business driver that's really going to help move them forward, that gets their attention and said, you know what, I'll give you 10 minutes. Let's do that. Or better yet, why don't you call me back at a specified time? So I think those are some of the considerations we should really look at in terms of how many no's we should take, how important is that account to us, who are we talking to, and what are we offering, and what are our other options if we do receive that no. And I think more than anything, we want to be very cordial, we want to be very polite, and think about this as a longer-term relationship. No today may very well turn into a yes 3, 6, 9 months from now. And I think in a B2B strategic sale, just continuing to ask until they say yes is likely not going to get you there, and in fact is probably going to get you do more damage and perhaps get you locked out of that account for good. So I think we need to be polite, we need to be persistent, but we also need to consider those other options and see where else we may be able to go. Thank you.